Hey guys, this video is very impromptu. I was not planning on making a video today on this or really anytime soon, but it's been something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. Lily was Cupcake Cover Tops just sent me a link to a video that she made for me, and I'm absolutely beside myself to know that other people are touched by my story in a way. I mean, God, I'm beside myself. And it's given me the push and kind of the inspiration to share my story and to tell you guys exactly what happened. And the reason I want to do this is, and the reason I've been contemplating doing this for so long, even though I said I'd never do it, is because I feel like it would help more people than it could possibly, hinder me in the future or the boys. Deacon knows about it now. Not to this extent, but he understands why his dad's out of the picture. So I feel like, in the future, obviously he'd know more and maybe probably even more than what, I'm going to share. But I want to share my story with you guys and explain to you guys why I'm divorced. And maybe, I'm sure some people have already kind of figured it out and put pieces together and, are able to understand why. But, yeah, I want to share it because I feel like it might help, it might empower somebody, it might make a difference in their life, like it has mine. Granted, my life is harder than it's ever been, but at the same time, I know that I did the right thing, and I did the right thing for not only myself, but for my boys, and for the safety of my kids, everything, you name it. I know that it was the right decision. So, okay. So about the middle, it was like the middle of Drake's pregnancy, I noticed some weird behavior from my ex. And weird in the sense that, he'd get home and he'd go use the bathroom for an hour, just be in the bathroom for an hour. Just, odd behavior, but nothing that I thought too much of. But he was a little off. He was a little jittery. He was a little off. I think there's a video. It's probably off. But if you guys remember, I tried to play a spaghetti prank on him. And I recorded it. And I had bought these noodles from World Market that were 2 or 3 feet long. And I just thought it'd be funny to be trying to eat a spaghetti noodle and have it be 3 feet long. So I did that. And in that video, a really good friend of mine actually had watched it, and her husband had commented to me, "Man, he's really jittery, he's really weird. Is everything okay?" And I, even then, didn't think that much of it. And as time had gone on, I started to note, we were really financially struggling, and at that time, I had a great job, he had a great job, we shouldn't have been. But his checks were, a little bit less and less and less, and I was trying to do more and more to, pick up the slack. And I didn't think anything of it because I thought that, he was just putting his checks in the bank. Well, this went on, and shortly after that time, it kind of evolved into a really hot temper, and to where everything made him snap and just flip out and yell and scream. I actually remember having a birthday. I was pregnant. I was with Deacon in the bathtub, and I was just hysterically crying because he had just completely flipped out on us about nothing. So I have a horrible memory, but I do remember a few things, and that was one of them specifically. I just remember trying to hide my face in the shower curtain so that Deacon couldn't see me so upset. And stuff like that carried on for a long time. So the verbal abuse of it started getting really ugly. And it wasn't something that, I was necessarily comfortable with, but I blamed things like stress. I blamed things like, work, stuff like that. And I found excuses for everything. More and more, he didn't want to hang around the family. He was working 6 or 7 days a week, 13-hour days, we just weren't seeing him. And when we did, he was ugly. And again, money kept getting tighter and tighter. This just kept getting worse and worse. And it was like a snowball effect. Fast forward up a little bit to Drake's birth. And at the birth, I remember my birth videographer, because I had a videographer, say that when she was editing the video, she couldn't find any, she had like no clips with him in it, because he wasn't really there. And while he was there, he was short and snippy and like yelling at people and just an asshole, to put it nice, like just a complete jerk. And he wasn't really there. So, and in the pictures, in hindsight, you can see that he was not there. And that's when things, I mean, really that's when things started to get bad. We moved to be closer to his work and to save some money, because at that time I had quit my job to become a stay-at-home mom, because financially it just kind of, it almost made more sense. It was kind of it was a fine line, but we did that. Things started getting suspicious. He started hiding his phone. Things were very, very strange for a while. And again, with the abuse and things like that, blah, blah, blah. So this is when I said not long ago, if I have any regrets, I wouldn't just make up excuses for things. I would actually look into them and understand, like, okay, or give them, a credit, my gut instinct. Okay, all of a sudden this person that I've been with for, at that time, like 9 years, is all of a sudden being so mean to me and so short-tempered and just so horrible. At one point, I remember he got mad at Deacon. He was in the bath. He was giving Deacon a bath, and he got mad at Deacon, and I was doing the dishes or something, and I looked down the hallway, and Deacon's sitting in the hallway, soaking wet, naked, just screaming, and I'm like, what is going on? He's like, he's splashed. Like, are you kidding me? A lot of that kind of stuff, a lot, and that was like every single day. Okay, so where am I at? Like I said, this is very spur of the moment, and I have a horrible memory. My mom and my sister and my grandma all do too, so it's like a hereditary bad memory thing. So anyways, that had been going on for quite some time. Things like that, short-tempered, just really weird behavior. We hit a point, it was when we started doing P90X, or shortly around that time, that his weight just fell off of him. And I attributed P90X to that, because I'd lost a lot of weight too, and it made sense, and it still makes sense, but in hindsight, there's things about it that are a little more clear than they were. I must say that I'm a little naive, and I'm pretty, as some people put it, pretty square, or pretty, I'm an open-minded person, but I'm pretty like, I'm not like sorry, the window's open. It's like a fan effect. And a slam door effect. I'm pretty, I don't smoke. I don't really drink. I'll have a glass of red wine every once in a while. Sometimes if I go out with the girls, I'll have like a blended drink or a whiskey ginger, something like that. But like, I'm really like, I've never done drugs. I'm very like, so I don't see a lot of things, and I don't see a lot of things that may, be right underneath my nose, In this case, that was it. In January of 2013, actually, if I can go back for just a second, I had called him out on the money, because he basically worked a completely commissioned job, and he would get a draw, and it was like a kind of like a salary in a way, and then anything above and beyond would be his like commission check, if that if that makes sense. Well, all of a sudden his draws started becoming less and less, and money became a very, very hot topic. I remember I was returning things to Costco, the unopened items, just so I could buy like produce and fruits and vegetables and things like that. So for quite some time, it was really bad. And he blamed lending people money, is what he said he was doing. So he was lending people money. And then he'd get paid, and he would miraculously deposit that money back into our account. with like an extra 20 bucks. Oh, they gave me an extra $20 for letting them borrow it. And it was fishy, but you know, I believed him. You want to believe him. At this point, we'd been married for 10 years. We got divorced at the 11-year mark. So, I left 3 months shy of us being together for 11 years and married for 5. So I want to believe him. I wanted to believe him, and I did believe him for so long, and I stood by him, and I did everything I could. Well, okay, so I have to go back even further because I forgot about 2 big events that happened before then. Well, before we had moved, no, this was after we'd moved. I sat him down. So this is before that January that I just mentioned. Ignore January. We'll get there. So all this money was missing. And I had some speculations. Like I thought maybe he was like, doing like bets or something. I don't even know. Lottery. I literally did not know. So I sat down with him and I talked about it, and he told me that he had a pill problem. And it surprised me because he'd always talked about people at work having problems with them and how it's just destroyed their lives and how they have no money for anything and that's all that they do. Well, it had gotten out of control. He had been withholding large sums of money from his paychecks, and in addition to that, getting money from like payday loan places. So he had some ridiculous debt. And if you guys remember some of those Facebook sales I did where I was selling like clothes and things like that, it was to pay off those payday loans so that we didn't have that debt because it was such a burden. That happened, and it took about 3 months to get out of that, and I thought things were good. That's when we started doing P90X, so it was kind of back that whole time. Like I said, it's a blur, and it's not a time in my life that I like to remember, but, well, this ended up happening again. And this was the January 2013. I was in the master bathroom, and his wallet was on the counter, and it fell, or I had a hunch. I don't remember exactly what happened. But his wallet was open, and I saw a registration in it. And I'm like, well, why is our registration in there? And I took it out and opened it up, and there was some crystal-y things in the bottom of it. Okay. Lily, she just posted on Instagram. That girl, I'm just beside myself with her right now. I'm going to cry again. The lighting's good. I look like crap, but the sun is like perfect right now. So it's like washing away so much. But I found this substance in his wallet. And at this point, I mean, things had gotten so ugly. And at this point, I had texted his dad. And I said, I need to talk to you. I need help. This is beyond me. Like, I can't even begin to express how much has been going on before this point. But I had suspected some stuff again after I bailed him out. And he said if I ever text his dad or anybody I know that he would leave me. And I was terrified. I didn't want to be left. I didn't know how I could do it. It was so scary to me. And I'm just, divorce is such, it's just something that I could have never in a million years fathomed. Well, I texted his dad, and I eventually had like a sit down with him, and I said, what is this? I took a picture of it. I'm so glad I did. I took a picture of it, and then I flushed it. For about 9 million reasons was I upset. The main one was the fact it was accessible to the kids, and that he'd been lying to me, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was. Later, I'd found out that it was meth. And it was ugly. And again, I had to bail him out of all of it. And I did. And I stood by his side, and my dad hadn't known at the time, but his dad had offered, to help or to come down to try to like straighten him out, things like that. His family knew he was different. Everybody knew he was different because I ran out of space, but he was the ultimate jerk. Such a jerk. We struggled for 6 months, and there were some behaviors that I now I now understand that I didn't before. And I took a class in college, and shame on me for not paying attention to it. But it was one of those, like, if I don't know if all colleges run this way, but sometimes you just need to get like a random, like, 1 credit humanity. I don't even know what they are. But I did one because it was an online class and it was only 2 weeks long on drugs. And it just happened I did one on Basque culture too. It just so happened to like fit my schedule, and that's why I did it. I didn't really learn anything from it, but I studied it, took the test, and just purged all the information. Shame on me, because I could have used it. But he developed a hobby, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this in my videos or not, but with remote control helicopters, where every single night he would get home and he would diligently work on these things, and everybody else just got snapped at. The kids were snapped at for talking to him while he was doing it, or being a part of it, or anything like that. Like, it was horrible. A few times, like, he actually, like, let's go fly the helicopter. Like, it would work once every few weeks, and they would go out front and do it, and that's something they did together. And I cherished that time because he was actually spending it with the kids. But he'd wake up in the morning, he would be doing that. He'd be sitting on the toilet, he'd be working on that. He would come home from lunch, and he was working on that. He would take it to work. He wasn't doing anything but, like, focusing on these remote control helicopters. The reason my table's so destroyed, outside the fact that I've kind of just totally let it go, especially with all these kids, but he had glue on the table and paint on the table, and he had all this, like, horrible smelling glue that he was using all the time. And I was constantly like, please, can you take that outside? That's not good for me to breathe. It's not good for especially the kids to breathe. Or it needs to not be in the house, and spray painting in the house, and just completely careless and reckless. And he just developed this, like, insane, like, hobby. And come to find out, meth users do this a lot with cars, and they just tinker with things and play with things and just put it together and then take it apart and put it together and take it apart. And I didn't know that this was a sign of anything, because he had told me that he had stopped and that he was only using it in his coffee in the morning or his protein shakes in the morning while we were doing P90X. So his birthday, or Deacon's birthday, came, so we're kind of in the end of May, and maybe one day I'll get into details about how horrific those 6 months were, but they were horrific. The kids, Deacon was showing signs of kind of distress from it all, and from his dad being such a jerk. I was told when I went to set up for Deacon's birthday party that he was yelling and screaming at the kids. And he was still at the house with another family member, and this is who I heard it from. And that Deacon was just repeatedly slamming the door against the wall, the front door. And my ex was just yelling at him for doing it. And Deacon was just like, and it was just, I don't know. That weekend, his family who had been visiting told me that it was time for me to go and that I needed to leave. And that the yelling, it was constant yelling and screaming and just abuse towards me and towards the kids. It was done. It was enough. I had put in my time. I dealt with it for 2 years, well, 2.5 years of the abuse from him, and the ups and the downs, the highs, the lows, the back and forth. I mean, just the chaos of it all. Yeah. So it was quite some time. And I then called my parents and I said, hey, I need to talk to you guys. And instantly I lost it because I was talking to my mom. She does this to me when she's not here. I don't know if there's other people like that, but I'll be so strong and everything's okay and I can keep it together. And the moment I talk to my mom or I give her a hug, I just break. I do this all the time with her. But instantly. And that's when I went and I stayed at my parents' house, and that's when you guys started noticing like I wasn't wearing my ring. I tried for so long to my dad offered, rehab. My dad offered to take care of it for him. So many things. so many things. We tried. And he was just, you know, it just sucks. It sucks so bad to know somebody for such a large portion of your life, then to have them choose a substance over their family. I don't even know what to compare it to. So when people say, you know, is there a chance that you'd ever get back together? In the beginning, yeah, I wanted to. And my dad actually said, he's like, write down on a piece of paper what your ideal would be. And my ideal was for him to get sober and to be the person I married and the person that I had children with. But it's been almost a year and a half since I left, and it's only worse. So, so this is why when he sees the kids at supervised, why he doesn't have custody over them, probably why he doesn't have a job. And the worst part about it is that he's not in the wrong. Everything's fine, and that, you know, he says he won't hurt the kids. For when he sees the kids, all it is picture time, so he can post pictures on Facebook, and that's it. And they're just not a priority in his life. I'm clearly not a priority. It's a shame. And now, I mean, I can talk for like another 10 hours about this topic. But I guess I'll open it up to questions now that you guys know. I'd be happy to answer questions. The reason I'm doing this video is not to badmouth my ex. I've been diligent about not making him look like the person that he is and keeping these things under wraps. Because I haven't even told everybody that I know personally. But I feel like it might help somebody. Somebody who might be, you know, living with somebody who's dealing with these same things. To know that it's okay to leave. I mean, you have to get to a point where you make a decision that's best for your family. And he, by the way, I didn't know that he was still using when I did leave. Tests later confirmed that he was, because he was very insistent that he wasn't. And gosh, even now, even today, there'll still be times where I'm like, oh, you know, he's acting normal, he's gained some weight back, you know, and I think that maybe things are better, and that he's better, and he's on the right track, but he's not. And it's only recently, the way he talks to me still, and the things that he says to me, and the things that he does, that has made me realize it's not going to change. It's not going to change anytime soon. I hope that one day it does, but I'm not holding my breath. So anyways, feel free to email me if you're going through something like this. I'm still going through it. There's a clause in our divorce decree. Or not, I don't even know if a clause is the right word. There's a part in our decree that says that he cannot have them unsupervised on his days until he passes 3 consecutive drug tests. He's taking me to court to dissolve this. Which shows me that maybe somewhere down there he does want the kids and he does want to spend time with them, because he's although I haven't, you know, he goes days and days and days without even calling them. But there's a part of me that thinks maybe deep down in there somewhere, but clearly he's not in the right spot to change and to change his habits. And I don't know what will make it change, but again, I'm not doing this video to, you know, discount him or his character or anything, but my hair is too slippery today. But you know, I just hope it helps. So again, no pity. I'm hopefully getting through this, and I'm on the upswing of things. It's been bad, and it's only affecting me harder and harder and worse and everything else every day. But you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we reach that light soon. So I'm sure there's going to be questions on what I tell the kids and how they're taking it and things like that. And they do know now. They know all of it. And I think it's important. So I'll be more than happy to share what I told them. Whatever. Leave questions below. I'm going to totally be an open, candid book about this now, because I think it might be more common than I know. And that is even said. So anyways, thank you guys so much for your support through all of this. Even though you didn't know exactly what happened, it's helped me more than you can ever. I don't know what I would have done without this community. And while a lot of it's really hard because there's a lot of ugly that comes from YouTube and some of the people who follow, there's a lot more good than there is bad. So I'll stop talking and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.